The man who designed the LaFerrari does not work at Ferrari anymore. The man who put his hands on the SF90 Stradale, the man who shaped the Ferrari Monza SP, the man whose pencil touched 25 separate Ferraris between 2010 and 2018, is not in Maranello tonight. He is not in Modena. He is not even in Italy. He is in a glass tower in Guangzhou, China, working for a company called XPeng, designing electric cars that will drive the Prancing Horse into a museum. His name is Juan Ma Lopez, and he is not the only one. He is just the most famous one. What I am about to walk you through in the next 15 minutes is the most catastrophic brain drain in the history of European luxury, automotive engineering. The men who built the Ferraris your father wanted, the men who built the Lamborghinis on your bedroom wall when you were 19, the men who built the Porsches you finally bought when you turned 50, are quietly packing up their offices in Maranello, Sant'Agata, and Stuttgart, boarding planes, and signing contracts in Shanghai. They are not retiring. They are not being fired. They are choosing to leave. And the reason they are leaving is going to make every single Ferrari customer in the world question what they actually paid for. So sit down, pour yourself something strong, because the funeral procession for the European exhaust pipe has officially begun. Let us start with the fact that triggered this entire investigation. Last month, a small fleet of car spotters parked themselves outside the gates of the Ferrari headquarters in Maranello, Italy. The same gates that Enzo Ferrari himself walked through in 1947. The same gates that have produced every single road-going Ferrari in living memory. And what they saw rolling out of those gates was not a Ferrari. It was a Xiaomi SU7 Ultra, a Chinese electric sedan made by a company that, until last year, was best known for selling cellular telephones and rice cookers, was being driven out of the most sacred address in Italian automotive history. The car had no Italian license plates. It is not legally sold in Italy. It had been imported secretly by Ferrari themselves for one purpose only: reverse engineering. Read that sentence again, slowly. Ferrari, the brand that for 75 years has told the world that it is the absolute pinnacle of automotive engineering, secretly purchased a car from a Chinese phone company so they could take it apart and figure out how it works. The Xiaomi SU7 Ultra produces 1,548 horsepower. It accelerates from a standstill to 62 miles per hour in 1.98 seconds. Set a production EV lap record at the Nürburgring of 6 minutes and 22 seconds. And the engineers in Maranello, the men who once built the F40, the F50, the Enzo, the LaFerrari, are now sitting in a workshop at the foot of the Italian Alps, with that Chinese sedan jacked up on lifts taking notes. That is the moment Ferrari surrendered. Not on a stage, not in a press release, in a parking lot, in front of cameras they did not realize were watching. Now you have to understand why this happened. And to understand that, you have to understand the man I mentioned at the very beginning, Juan Ma Lopez. For 8 years, from 2010 to 2018, Juan Ma Lopez was the head of exterior design at Ferrari. That is not a junior position. That is not a stylist who draws door handles. That is the man whose office is 2 doors down from the CEO, the man who decides what every single Ferrari in the catalog looks like. He worked on 25 different Ferrari models during his tenure. He shaped the LaFerrari, a car that today sells at auction for over $5 million. He shaped the SF90 Stradale, Ferrari's first plug-in hybrid supercar. He shaped the Ferrari Monza SP, a limited production speedster so exclusive that you could not buy one unless Ferrari personally invited you. In 2018, Lopez quietly walked away from all of it. He went to BYD, the Chinese company that 2 decades ago was assembling lithium battery packs for Nokia cell phones. He took the title of Global Exterior Design Director. He led the design of the BYD E-Seed GT concept car, which became the visual foundation for half the BYD lineup that exists today. And then in June of 2024, he moved again to XPeng, vice president of the design center. He now sits in Guangzhou with full authority over the visual direction of one of the most aggressive new car brands on the planet. The man who drew the LaFerrari now draws the cars that are being built to bury Ferrari. When asked privately by European journalists why he left, the answer Lopez has given consistently, in different interviews, in different words, is the same. In China, when he proposes a radical design, the company says build it. In Italy, when he proposed a radical design, the company said let us workshop it for the model after the next one. He left because they would not let him design. But Lopez is just one name. The graveyard of European talent now working in China is genuinely staggering, and I want to walk you through it because the scale of it is something the European press has been very quiet about, for reasons that will become obvious. Wolfgang Egger, German, former design chief at Alfa Romeo, former design chief at Audi, designed multiple Lamborghinis. He left Europe in 2017 and went to BYD, where he is now the lead designer of the entire Yangwang luxury sub-brand. The Yangwang U9 hypercar, the one that just set the production speed record at 308 miles per hour, was shaped by Wolfgang Egger. Klaus Zitziora Bischoff, German. He designed the Volkswagen Golf Mark 7 and Mark 8. He designed the entire Volkswagen ID electric range. He designed cars that millions of European families bought. He left Volkswagen at the end of 2023 and joined Changan in China. He is now the head of design for the entire Changan group, which includes the new electric brands Avatar and Deepal. Chris Tomasson, American. He spent over a decade at BMW and Ford. He left in 2015 for a Chinese startup that did not even have a product yet, called Next EV. That company is now NIO, one of the largest Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers. Tomasson is the vice president of design and runs the NIO Style Center in Munich. Benjamin Baum, German. He worked at Porsche, where he helped sketch the lines of the legendary 911 Series 992, the most recent generation of the most iconic sports car in Europe. In 2022, he left Porsche and moved to Beijing. He is now designing the Li Auto L7, L8, and L9 luxury SUVs. Stefan Sieloff, German. He shaped the Audi A1, Audi A7 Sportback, the Mercedes CLS, and the Bentley Bentayga, 4 cars that defined the European luxury market for an entire decade. In 2021, he joined Geely as vice president of global design. He now controls the visual direction of Geely Auto, Zeekr, Lynk & Co., Volvo, Polestar, the LEVC, Lotus, and Smart. Ken Okuyama. He ran design at Pininfarina, the legendary Italian carrozzeria that styled almost every Ferrari from the late 1950s through the early 2000s. He penned the Ferrari Enzo personally. He is now actively consulting for Chinese automotive manufacturers. These are not junior employees who got better job offers. These are the architects of the European luxury car, the men who literally drew the cars that defined modern automotive aspiration. And they are gone. Every single one of them has packed up an office in Stuttgart, Munich, Maranello, or Wolfsburg and moved to a city that 10 years ago they could not have located on a map. Now let us talk about why they actually left, because the surface explanation that they wanted creative freedom is true, but incomplete. The deeper reason is this. The European automotive industry has spent the last 20 years optimizing for one thing only, the quarterly earnings call. Every decision in Stuttgart and Maranello and Wolfsburg in the last 2 decades has been filtered through finance departments, brand consultants, and risk-averse executive committees who are terrified of doing anything that has not already been validated by a focus group in Frankfurt. When Wolfgang Egger walked into a meeting at Audi and said, "I want to design a car with no B-pillars and full coach doors that open in opposite directions," the answer was no. When he walked into the same meeting at BYD, the answer was, "When can we have the prototype?" When Benjamin Baum proposed an aggressive new front fascia at Porsche, he was told to align it with 70 years of 911 heritage. When he proposed the same idea at Li Auto, he was told to push it further. The European car industry stopped designing cars and started defending its history. The Chinese car industry started designing cars because it had no history to defend. This is the heart of it, and every single old guard engineer who is honest about his industry will admit it privately, even if they will never say it on a stage. The European luxury car has become a museum piece. The Chinese electric car has become the laboratory. Now I have to address the question every single one of you is asking right now. If the talent has left, what does that mean for Ferrari, for Lamborghini, for Porsche, for the entire idea of the European supercar? The honest answer is this. The cars these companies have already designed will continue to be sold for the next 5 to 7 years. the 296 GTB, the Revuelto, the 911 GT 3RS. These are excellent cars. They were designed by the men who left before they left. They are the last gifts of a dying generation. What comes after that is the problem. Ferrari's first all-electric car, internally codenamed the Elettrica, is scheduled for unveiling later this year. The price is expected to be around $600,000, and the engineers building it, by Ferrari's own admission, are now spending their days dismantling a Chinese phone company's sedan to figure out how to package a battery, how to manage thermal flow under track conditions, how to make an electric motor sound like something a human being would actually want to listen to. Ferrari has never had to copy anything. For 75 years, every other company on Earth was copying Ferrari. The Japanese tried in the 1990s with the NSX and the Supra. The Americans tried in the 2000s with the Ford GT. The Germans tried throughout with the 911 and the SLS. None of them succeeded. Ferrari sat at the top of the mountain, alone, untouchable. That mountain has been demolished, and the new mountain is being built in Hefei, in Guangzhou, in Shenzhen, by men who used to work in Maranello. There is one more piece to this story, and it is the piece that will hurt the most for anyone who has loved European cars their entire life. The exhaust pipe is dead. For 100 years, the soul of every Italian supercar lived inside its exhaust system, the bark of a Ferrari Fiat 12 at 8,000 RPM, the thunder of a Lamborghini Fusiv 10 climbing through its rev range, the flat six wail of a Porsche 911. These were not just sounds, they were the audible signature of mechanical engineering at its absolute peak. They were the reason men in their 50s and 60s wrote checks for cars they could not justify. They were the reason teenagers in the 1980s hung posters on their walls. The electric car has no exhaust, it has no engine, it has no mechanical voice. Ferrari knows this. The leaked patents from Maranello show that they are now investing tens of millions of euros into research on artificially generated engine sounds. They are paying acousticians to design fake noises. The first electric Ferrari, when you press the accelerator, will play a synthesized sound through speakers in the cabin, not because the car needs it, because the customer needs it, because Ferrari knows that without the sound, the customer is paying $600,000 for a fast electric sedan, and they could buy a Xiaomi SU7 Ultra for $65,000 that does the same thing. This is what the brain drain has cost. The European car industry now has to fake the very thing that made it European. The exhaust pipe, that beautiful piece of mechanical theater that has been the punctuation mark of every supercar for a century, has been replaced by a Bluetooth speaker. The men who designed those cars saw this coming. They saw it 5 years ago. They saw it 10 years ago. They told their bosses. Their bosses did not listen, so they got on planes. The corporate boardrooms in Maranello, Stuttgart, and Sant'Agata are very quiet right now. Officially, the European luxury industry is fine. Sales are stable. Brand prestige is intact. The waiting lists for the latest Ferraris are still measured in years. But behind closed doors, the executives know exactly what has happened. They watched Juan Ma Lopez leave for BYD and told themselves it was a one-off. They watched Wolfgang Egger leave for the same company and told themselves it was a coincidence. They watched Klaus Bischoff leave Volkswagen for Chang'an and started to worry. They watched Benjamin Baum leave Porsche for Li Auto and called emergency meetings, and then they watched Ferrari's own engineers drive a Chinese sedan out of the Maranello gates, and they stopped pretending. The exhaust is dead. The transmission is dead. The mechanical car, as a category, as a religion, as an entire economic ecosystem, is in its final decade, and the men who built that religion did not just leave it, they are now actively building its replacement. So the next time you walk into a Ferrari dealership and the salesman tells you about heritage, about Maranello, about the unbroken 75-year legacy of Italian engineering, ask him one question. Ask him where the man who designed the LaFerrari is working today. He will not have an answer, but you and I now do. What is your honest opinion about this? Do you think Ferrari, Porsche, and Lamborghini can survive the loss of their best designers? Or has the brain drain already killed the European supercar? Drop it down in the comments. I read every single one, and if this video opened your eyes the way it should have, hit that like button, because it tells the algorithm to show this to other people who still care about real automotive history. The next video is going to dig into exactly which Chinese brand each of these defectors is now working for, and what they are about to release. You will not want to miss it.